Hello, glad to see you all again. Perhaps you've heard of a thought experiment called the trolley problem. Imagine an unstoppable electric car rushing down the track ahead. On the track are 5 people bound and unable to move. If nothing is done, they will all be killed by the oncoming train. However, you have the ability to intervene by pressing a button or pulling a lever to change the train's direction. But this will divert the train onto another track where one person is tied up. Faced with this situation, how would you handle it? Do nothing and let the train kill the 5 people, or sacrifice one person to save the others? You might be wondering who came up with this alarming thought experiment. It was the British philosopher Philippa Foot. Foot was an admirer of the Greek philosopher Aristotle. In a philosophical paper in 1967, she presented a dilemma. Suppose that a mob demands a judge to find the perpetrator of a crime, threatening to bloodily retaliate against 5 innocent hostages if the criminal is not identified. Since the actual perpetrator cannot be determined, the judge realizes that he can prevent bloodshed by convicting and executing an innocent person. Similarly, in the hypothetical scenario of a runaway electric car, the controller can either let it continue towards 5 workers or divert it to another track where only one person is working, to avoid alerting the intelligent readers to warn the workers. Foot didn't forget to assume that anyone on the track the train heads towards is certain to die. In 1976, the American philosopher Judith Thomson referenced Foot's imaginary experiment in another paper and named it the Trolley Problem. In both initial scenarios, the exchange involves 1 life for 5. Although the scenarios are imaginary, meaning you can escape them simply by not imagining them anymore. However, it inadvertently poses a gruesome ethical question: should we intervene to save more lives but harm one or some others, or should we let things unfold naturally? You might think that 5 lives are more worthy of saving than 1, but the issue is that you're quantifying human lives as if they were commodities or currency. To make the problem clearer, answer this question. Do you still think that the lives of 5 people are important, valuable than the life of 1 person, when those 5 people are strangers, while 1 person is a friend, a relative, a sibling, or yourself? You start to feel the difficulty, right? Let's continue. If you decide to sacrifice 1 person to save 5, would you continue with that choice if the number of people to be sacrificed increases to 2, 3, and then 4? Remember, the person's death is caused by your action of pulling the lever and diverting the train. Making a decision when you have nothing to lose is still easy. Imagine that on the other track are houses, properties, and all your savings. At this point, would you still have the resolve? Now, suppose that you, with tears in your eyes, pull the lever, sacrificing all your possessions to save a person. Anyway, money is an external entity. You can always earn it back, right? Now, what if the person lying on the other track is you? If the lever is right beside you, would you still consider 5 lives more precious than 1 and divert the train toward yourself? If you do nothing and let the train continue straight, it means your life is more important than those of the other 5, correct? If previously you sacrificed the few to save the many, but when the few are yourself, you no longer sacrifice. So, are you a moral hypocrite? And let's say you're willing to sacrifice yourself for the greater good. Do you still think that the lives of 5 people are more important than 1? If those 5 people are 5 elderly individuals nearing the end of their lives, and the 1 person left is a newborn baby with their whole life ahead of them. Despite the fact that the elderly individuals have 5 lives combined, each may only have a few seasons left, while the baby has an entire lifetime ahead. If the decision lies in your hands, what would you do? Putting aside the 1 versus 5 dilemma, let's simplify it a bit. A runaway electric car is heading towards a billionaire. This billionaire promises to give you $1 billion, enough money for 10 lifetimes, if you pull the lever and divert the train towards an innocent person. If no one sees you, what would you do? Save 1 life by taking another and live comfortably for the rest of your life, or do nothing and still have 1 life taken away. The issue of the electric train even extends to the realm of animal welfare. It presents a choice between a sentient being like a cat and 5 animals with lower levels of sentience, such as lobsters. The cat knows fear as the train approaches and can feel pain, whereas the lobsters might not. In this case, the level of sentience is weighed. Would you save a life with higher or lower sentience? Similarly, if the train is speeding toward 5 sleeping people, and you can pull the lever to divert it toward one person who is awake and alert, how would you handle the situation? Would the number of lives matter as much as the perception of pain and fear in the few versus the many? Still concerning pain, if pulling the lever doesn't change the train's direction but only makes it go faster, reducing the pain for the group of 5, would you pull it? What if the few don't want to die, but the many do? If the 5 people deliberately put themselves on the track while the person on the other track is kidnapped and tied there, what would you do? Throughout all the scenarios from the beginning of the video until now, you've always been alert and aware of the situation. But what if this time you forget to wear your glasses and can only see blur? Would you still dare to act? Overall, there are many conflicting views surrounding the scenarios of the electric train dilemma. One perspective argues that you're morally obligated to switch the train onto the track with fewer people, as this action is socially acceptable and morally superior to doing nothing at all. Another view suggests that the original hypothetical scenarios posed by Foot and its subsequent variations are ethically flawed. So saving 5 lives rather than 1 constitutes a moral wrong, as you bear some responsibility for the death of the person you chose to sacrifice. Another viewpoint asserts that human life is priceless, and if you're good at math, you'll know that 5 times priceless is still priceless. There won't be a case where infinity plus infinity plus infinity plus infinity plus infinity is greater than infinity. Therefore, comparing the quantity of human lives to decide whether to sacrifice a few and save the many is morally flawed. And because the ultimate outcome of the situation always involves someone dying, just your presence in the hypothetical scenario is a moral wrong. When you look at the issue through an ethical lens, a 2-year-old child made a bold decision that no one could have expected. He pushed 6 people onto the same track and then had the train hit them. Clearly, stepping outside the moral dilemma of a 2-year-old boy has created a very different and creative problem-solving approach. Here, we're not talking about right or wrong, but we have to admit that it's a very different and creative solution where no one has to sacrifice and no one gets saved, fair to everyone.
Yay!
Now, you might think, oh my goodness, a few silly thought experiments being taken so seriously. But let me tell you that this experiment might have been silly in the past, but it's not silly in today's age of artificial intelligence. Self-driving cars are becoming increasingly common, and AI systems will eventually approach human-level decision-making in real-world traffic situations. Surely, there will come a day when they'll have to choose whether to hit to people ahead or swerve to avoid them and hit someone else. Do you still think the electric train dilemma is silly now? In fact, many variations of the electric train dilemma have emerged as software programmers designing self-driving software face inevitable collisions that could result in fatalities. For example, when someone suddenly jaywalks, the choices made by the car's artificial intelligence can directly impact the outcome of the accident and the number of casualties. And because humans create the AI, aren't we the ones having to solve the electric train dilemma in real life? The Media Lab at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology MIT has created an online program called The Moral Machine for the public to put themselves in the shoes of artificial intelligence and make decisions in scenarios similar to the electric train dilemma. You can also participate in this program at the link provided in the comments section, of course, after watching this entire video, please. Speaking of the experiment, it consists of 13 scenarios where you, as a self-driving car, have to decide whether to proceed straight to preserve the lives of the passengers in the car or to swerve and hit an obstacle or pedestrians. Most scenarios are chosen from a basket of around 26 million different possibilities, where gender, age, physical condition, social status, and the number of characters are varied to create challenging situations. Data from 130 countries with at least 100 participants in the experiment show that Overall, human life is prioritized over animals. The majority is prioritized over the minority. The young are prioritized over the old. Infants are usually spared the most, and cats are often hit the most. Additionally, male doctors and old men are spared more than female doctors and old women, while female athletes and large-bodied women are spared more than male athletes and large-bodied men. Pedestrians are prioritized over passengers in the car, and law-abiding individuals are saved more than those who violate traffic laws. Currently, the application of this moral machine is not clear. However, it raises a very important question: should we set ethical standards, a common code of conduct that all self-driving AI must adhere to? Or should each car owner have the right to set their own ethical standards for their vehicle, such as prioritizing the lives of themselves and their families over the safety of others? This issue is so serious that in 2016, Germany's Ethics Commission released 20 rules governing ethical choices for self-driving cars, with Rule 8 directly related to the electric train dilemma. Accordingly, morally ambiguous situations, such as deciding between the life of one person and another, depend on the actual situation with countless unpredictable behaviors from all parties. Therefore, it cannot be standardized clearly, nor can it be programmed for the software to avoid one person or hit another. For example, if a driver hits and kills one person to save the life of one or more others, he may or may not face imprisonment or face varying degrees of imprisonment depending on a complex investigation process afterward to determine the fault of each party involved. Therefore, this rule emphasizes that the technology system must be designed to prevent accidents rather than to predict and make decisions for the driver, as ultimately we cannot be sure whether an AI can be programmed to understand human ethics or not. What's your perspective? Let's discuss it in the comments section. As usual, please subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on other exciting content from our channel. And now, goodbye and see you again soon.